This year has been a pretty busy one so far. There have been lots of good films, anime, and games released, and we're only halfway through 2017. One of the things I've been looking forward to the most this year is seeing the next installment of one of my favourite anime of all time. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of those franchises that most anime fans wouldn't even consider watching, especially the newer series, but they're all honestly really good. I really don't like seeing it slip under the radar, so let's use the very tiny amount of influence I have to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. Each series is a standalone story with new characters. Whilst some are better to start with than others, you can jump in wherever you want. Honestly, VRAINS seems like a perfect place to start due to it only having 3 episodes so far. And those 3 episodes are already so interesting and dense with character development and plot. Yes, seriously, this card game advertisement is surprisingly well written. The first episode doesn't even feature a duel in it because it's so focused on story and characters. I really like that it already feels like the story is in motion. A lot of card game anime have slow episodic starts, but VRAINS just gets straight into it and everything felt important. It's tight and quick so far. We get introduced to our protagonist Yusaku with a really good scene involving him talking to a classmate named Shinji. This scene gave us quite a bit of information about the two of them, as well as the setting the series takes place in, whilst feeling like a natural conversation that felt fun and full of personality. When I first saw Shinji's design, I wasn't expecting to like him, but the scene gave him so much potential to grow and progress as time goes on. His heart is in the right place, but he's clearly lacking in other areas, like how he cares about his duel disk more than his deck. He looks really dead set on doing the right thing and getting better so that he can become as powerful as his idol, the Playmaker. I honestly couldn't help but relate to Shinji quite a lot, and I feel like that's intentional. As for Yusaku, he's pretty different to the norms as far as card game protagonists go. Instead of the usual wide-eyed never give up friendship is important type, Yusaku is laid back and stern. He even denies 2 duels in the 3rd episode just because he isn't interested. He's probably the smartest protagonist yet and can keep a level head, especially during duels. His intelligence isn't even really told to us. Again, it's conveyed naturally by showing us him outsmarting other characters. The very first thing we see from him is that he slept through class, which shows that he's so smart he doesn't need to worry about missing anything important, as well as hinting that he was so busy the previous night that he didn't get enough sleep. As someone who loves superheroes and card game anime, I love that VRAINS is a mix of the two. When the characters go into the virtual world of VRAINS, they transform. Aoi is quite literally a magical girl and an idol on top of that. Yusaku's transformation reminds me of Kamen Rider due to the spandex motorcycle-esque costume. Early on, Shinji even refers to the Playmaker, Yusaku's virtual alias, as a superhero since he keeps chasing after the Knights of Hanoi. It's pretty refreshing to see that we already have an actual villain introduced to this early on too. The Knights of Hanoi are a pretty big threat. They've even been shown as a terrorist group and have attacked and attempted to blow up a public place. Yusaku is trying to get the attention of the Knights of Hanoi so he can defeat them. Why? Because they had something to do with his past, and from the looks of things, something really bad. To do so, he manages to hack his way into getting his hands on a valuable AI called Ignis. He cleverly traps Ignis inside of his duel disk and sets it so the only way of releasing him is if Hanoi beat him in a duel. This is a really good way of them bringing the card game into the plot. If Hanoi just steal the duel disk, then Ignis will be useless to them, so they have to beat him at the card game whether they like it or not. Other than this though, the story isn't really centered on the card game, which is an interesting move. The card game is only really a means to an end, and since this anime is set in a virtual world, they really could have switched out the cards for shown in action and not much would have really changed. Let's get to the duels then. The duels take place on hoverboards now, because I guess every series needs some kind of duel gimmick. Unlike 5Ds where the motorbikes were autopilot, here the characters need to pay attention to where they're moving so they don't crash. If you do end up falling from your board, this can injure your real body too, since the duels take place in a virtual game. That's only the speed duels though, since it's mentioned that regular duels are a more common thing in this universe. I hope later on as things progress we start to alternate between the two types for variety. Speed duels are overall a bit more simplified than normal ones, so it's a pretty smart move to ease new fans into the game, as well as not so subtly tying into the current phone game. The duels are presented really well. Yusaku's duel disk is cool. It looks like a mix between the Battle City and Pendulum discs. I actually can't believe this is the first time one of the duel discs is a character, with Ignis being trapped inside of it. However, the other characters have completely different duel discs that I haven't made my mind up on yet. I really like the ring that appears around the wrist that has 3 slots for deck, graveyard and extra deck, but my main complaint is the lack of a blade, the part of the disc that the characters place their cards on top of. Instead, the cards just float around the character, which makes sense in universe, but it's too minimalistic and doesn't look stylish enough for me personally. The duel UI, the life point counter, etc. is very slick and minimalistic, but unlike the duel discs, this time the minimalism is used to its advantage. I really like that the life point counter has see-through parts to it rather than just looking like a solid rectangle. One detail that I really like is that the stripe on Playmaker's suit lights up whenever he draws a card. I honestly didn't like Yusaku's Playmaker form at first, but it's definitely grown on me a lot since seeing it in motion. Yusaku's deck reminds me of a techno version of Yugi's deck, especially Decode Talker, whose armor reminds me of Dark Magician. Decode Talker's summon was cool as hell too. I love the way they visualize Link Monster's arrows and ties them back to Yusaku being a hacker. Even better, Decode Talker looks surprisingly good in CGI. From the looks of things, VRAINS will only be using CGI on Link monsters themselves, and because of this the monsters are designed to look good specifically in this art style. A lot of the time CGI will look bad because it will either keep switching from 2D to 3D, which is jarring, or it'll be a character that was designed to look good in 2D that looks worse in a different art style. The way that VRAINS handles it negates both of these problems, and it uses the jarring nature of CGI to make Decode Talker look mysterious and otherworldly. I like the character designs a lot. For the most part they're a bit more subtle than the usual norm, with the virtual world avatars being an explanation for the over-the-top designs. These designs also tell us a bit about the characters themselves, just like any good character design should. One example of this is how Yusaku's hair is made of pointy triangles, whereas Aoi's hair looks like a circle, which ends up reflecting both of their personalities a bit. I like VRAINS' colour scheme. The previous two series were very bright and colourful, which isn't a bad thing, but this change in colour gives VRAINS a distinctive look that feels a bit more serious. The animation itself isn't the best. It's serviceable definitely, but there are a few off-model frames here and there. It's not enough to be distracting, but it isn't anywhere near as good looking as Zexal. As previously mentioned, the story is at the centre of things as well as the characters. There's already a very sizable cast, but we know that VRAINS is going to end up being pretty long, so these characters should get more than enough screen time each. And within these first 3 episodes, all of them have been given something to do, and a lot of them have different motivations for being relevant to the plot. Yusaku wants to stop Hanoi because they wronged him in the past. Hanoi wants to stop Playmaker because they now see him as a threat. Akira Zaizen needs to find Playmaker because his employers want their hands on Ignis. Shinji looks up to Playmaker and wants to be strong like him, and Go Onizuka wants to protect his title and prove that he really is the best duelist. Actually, let's talk about Go Onizuka a little. He only gets a little screen time just like most of the other characters so far, but the scenes he has been in show a lot about his character. He's designed to look like a wrestler. He even has a wrestling ring in his training room and a champion's belt, but we'll get back to the belt later. Go is the best living duelist in VRAINS. He wins the most and is a celebrity because of it. He's even the only character to have the same design in and out of VRAINS so he can remain recognizable. When Playmaker comes to the scene, Go becomes noticeably frustrated and sees him as a threat since he's a good duelist that accidentally steals a lot of the attention because of his duel against Hanoi. In episode 3, Go is approached by Akira Zaizen. Since Akira needs to get his hands on Ignis, he decides the obvious strategy is to hire the strongest duelist to take him out. Go rejects Akira's offer despite said offer being overwhelmingly beneficial to the both of them. Why would that be then? Well, it's because of the championship belt. Despite being shown only briefly, it tells us everything we need to know about his character. It looks like it was made by a child, and I assumed that it was him from years ago. If this is the case, then that means being the #1 duelist was a childhood dream. He's not #1 because it's profitable, but because he loves dueling. He's kept the belt in almost perfect condition after all this time, which means that it must have sentimental value to him. He doesn't want business deals or anything of the like to get between him and Playmaker, but instead he wants a good clean fight to prove his position as the best. The use of comedy is well done too. In episode 3, we're shown the comedic moment that some VRAINS players had disguised their avatars to Playmaker so that they could take credit for the Hanoi duel and amass his popularity. It's played for laughs since they're doing such an unconvincing job of copying him, but it also serves as very subtle foreshadowing for Go's plan later in this episode. You see, Go had already challenged Playmaker to a duel, but he had rejected the offer because he's only interested in stopping the Knights of Hanoi. Go comes up with a plan to get Yusaku's attention later on in the episode by disguising himself as one of the Knights of Hanoi. And because of the focus on setting up all the characters like this and giving them all different believable motivations, it means I can look forward to the duels a lot more even if they happen less often. Some story arcs of Yu-Gi-Oh! Can feel like Monster of the Week deals where a new character is introduced, given paper in development, and becomes irrelevant once they're beaten, but VRAINS tackles this head on and gives us something much more complex and interesting. It's a risky approach since this means the game is getting a lot less screen time, but it also means we're getting a better anime in turn. Revolver and Yusaku already have an extremely powerful rivalry despite not really sharing much screen time, and I can't wait to see so many upcoming matchups like seeing Yusaku against Revolver, Aoi, Shinji, Emma, and Go, but all for different reasons. I really don't want VRAINS to get overlooked and fly under the radar. There is so much potential so far that it isn't even funny. I've honestly been counting down the days to the next episode, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how things progress both in plot and characters. The part I'm looking forward to most currently is seeing more of Aoi, since she's already interacted with Playmaker a lot, has such a good looking and meaningful design, her brother is Akira, and she's a popular idol within VRAINS. Not to mention that she's one of Yusaku's classmates, but neither of them even know it yet. There's so much to do with her character that I can't wait to see where they're taking everything. And the same can be said with VRAINS in general. Having such a strong start does mean that it could fail to live up to those expectations, but I have so much faith in Yu-Gi-Oh! As a franchise that I doubt it'll have a noticeable drop in quality anytime soon. Don't miss VRAINS.
Kiss